Hello, welcome to today's lesson. Today we're going to continue with our angle pairs and look at specifically angle pairs formed by what we call transversals. So before we jump into that, let's talk about what it means for lines to be parallel to each other. Most of us would define parallel lines as two lines that never intersect, but there's another part of the definition that's really important that we talk about. And in order for two lines to be parallel, not only do the lines have to be never intersect with each other, but they also have to be what we call coplanar. So parallel lines are two coplanar lines that never intersect. So in example 1 here, we want to think of each segment in the figure as a part of a line. Which line or lines or plane or planes in the figure appear to fit the description. So we want to think of each part of this as being able to be extended past what we have up here. So we want to find a line or lines that are parallel to line AF and containing point E. So if we extend line AF past points A and F, it would look something like this. And what we want to find is a line that is parallel to this containing point E. So point E is right here. And we want to find something that's parallel to this. So remember, parallel, we just defined it. We're looking for two coplanar lines that are never going to intersect. So something in the same plane would be line EJ. This is coplanar. Like I said, it's being in the same plane. The plane being this rectangle right here. And they're never going to intersect if they go on forever in each direction. So a line that's parallel to AF containing point E would be line EJ. And the next question asks us to find a plane or planes parallel to plane FGH containing point E. Now the pentagon in the back here is plane FGH. In order to name a plane, we only need 3 letters. You've got G, which I added in here because it wasn't on your notes, right here. And then this down here should also be H, right there. So the plane we're talking about, FGH, is going to be right here. And we're looking for something that's parallel to that plane that contains point E. And that's going to be this plane, the other pentagon, across from it. It's a plane. A plane's a two-dimensional surface, and we can call this plane whatever we want to, as long as we use 3 of the letters. So A, B, C, D, and E are the 5 letters that make up the plane. So we can call this plane ABC. Now, before we jump into the next part, let's talk about what a transversal is. So when I have 2 lines, like here, I have lines A and line B. If I take a third line, and this third line intersects both of these lines, call this T, this is what we call a transversal. A transversal is any line that intersects 2 or more other lines. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of our angle pairs that we have that happen when I have a transversal cross 2 lines. Now, when I have lines cut by a transversal, I'm going to get 8 with two lines cut by one transversal. I'm going to have 8 separate angles. We notice that we've got 2 groups of angles. We've got one group at the upper portion with the intersection of my first line of the transversal, and then I have a second group with my second line in the transversal as well. So for each of these. Now, we're going to go over 4 angle pairs: corresponding angles, alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, and consecutive interior angles. Now, when we do these angle pairs, we're always going to pick one angle from the first group, and our second angle is always going to come from the second group when dealing with these 4 angle pairs. We're never going to pick 2 angles from the same group when dealing with one of these 4 angle pairs. So my first angle pair that I'm going to talk about is corresponding angles. Corresponding means that they're in the same relative position. They're in a corresponding position. So if I take angle 1 here, angle 1 is located in the upper left-hand corner of my intersection. So the angle that I'll look for in my second group on the bottom here is what other angle is located on the upper left portion of the intersection. In that case, it would be angle 5. So angles 1 and 5 are what we call corresponding angles because they're in the same relative position. If I pick angle 2 here, angle 2 is in the upper right-hand part of the intersection, therefore its corresponding angle would be angle 6. Angle 3 is in the lower left-hand part of the intersection, so angle 7 would be its corresponding angle. And then angle 4 is in the lower right part of the intersection, so angle 8 would be its corresponding position. So to draw an example of this, two lines intersected by a transversal, angles 1 and 5 would be an example of corresponding angles. Our next angle pair is what we call alternate interior angles. Now the word alternate refers to the transversal, meaning they're going to be on different sides of the transversal. All right, so the interior part means they're going to be inside my two lines. So what I'm looking at is my transversal, which is right here, two angles on different sides. One's going to be on one side of the transversal, the other one will be on the opposite side. And then I'm looking at my two lines, and I'm looking inside my two lines. And remember, I'm always going to pick one from the top group and one from the bottom group. So if I pick angle 3 right here, the only other angle that I could pick to go with this would be angle 6, because angle 6 is on the other side of the transversal, and it's located inside of the two lines. Angle 4 and angle 5 would also be another example of alternate interior angles. So alternate interior angles, angle 3 and angle 6 would be an example of alternate interior angles. My next angle pair is going to be alternate exterior angles. So similar to the alternate interior angles, we're looking on different sides of the transversal. So again, here's my transversal. But this time I'm looking outside of my two lines. So if I look at angle 1 here, I'm looking at an angle on the other side of the transversal for my other group. In this case, it would be angle 8. So angles 1 and 8 would be alternate exterior angles, and angles 2 and 7 would be my other pair of alternate exterior angles. So here's an example. Angles 1 and 8 would be an example of alternate exterior angles. My last group would be the consecutive interior angles. So again, the word consecutive is going to refer to my transversal. Consecutive meaning that we're looking for two angles now on the same side of the transversal. You also hear these sometimes called same side interior angles. And again, we're looking at interior, so we're looking inside my two lines. So we're looking for two angles on the same side of the transversal that are inside. So angles 3 and 5 would be one example of this, and angles 4 and 6 would be another example. So drawing with your teacher, you go ahead and draw the consecutive interior angles. Angles 3 and 5 is being an example of consecutive interior angles. All right, moving on to example 2. The first thing we want to do here is we want to go ahead and extend these two lines past to make this work a little bit. And we want to identify a pair of corresponding angles, alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, and then consecutive interior angles. So let's start with corresponding. Remember that our two intersections, so my two lines that are going to be intersected by my transversal, the blue line is going to be the transversal. So my two groups of angles are going to be right here and right here. So I always want to pick one angle from each of these. So if we start with our corresponding angles, remember the corresponding means they're in the same corresponding position. So if I pick angle DAC, the other angle that's in the upper left-hand corner of the intersection is going to be right here, which would be angle ACB. So these two angles would be corresponding angles because they're both in the same relative corresponding position. Our next angle pair is alternate interior angles. So again, we're looking inside the two lines on opposite sides of the transversal. Remember, you have two options for this, and we'll go ahead and say that BAC will be my first one, right here. So angle BAC, and the other angle inside the two lines on the other side of the transversal will be this angle right here. We'll call it ACF. So BAC and angle ACF. For our alternate exterior angle pair, again, now we're looking outside the two lines, still on opposite sides of the transversal. So we'll go ahead and say angle DAB up here. And then outside the lines, on the opposite side transversal would be right here, angle FCE. So angle DAB and angle FCE will be alternate exterior angles. And then my last pair of angles I'm looking for is consecutive interior angles. So we're looking inside the two lines and then on the same side of the transversal. So if I call this point G down here, then GAC will be my first angle, and then angle FCA will be my second angle. So these angles will be my consecutive interior angles. All right, at this point, go ahead and try the U-try nows and check your answers at the bottom. And if you have questions, make sure you're writing them on the side and ask them next time we see you. Have a good day.